The other day, we got the Jurassic World Chaos Theory Season 3 trailer. I think it looks fantastic. It looks like there's going to be a lot of really fun elements in this. It's going to be tying heavily to Jurassic World Dominion. It's going to be showing us what's going on with Biosyn, who, of course, were basically the primary antagonists of Dominion. So I'm very excited to see which direction this series takes. But after they released that trailer, something came to mind. Something that's been kind of like at the back of my mind for years now. And that is, I don't really like how they handle their animated series. As many of you know, Netflix is the one that airs these Jurassic World series. And Netflix has this very fun thing that they do where they just drop a whole season in a single day. That's true for all of their series. They do that for Squid Game, do that for Stranger Things. Nothing's really off the table. And that includes the Jurassic shows. Now, that could work better for some shows than it would for others. You know, some shows do retain some popularity after they've been released, but there are some shows that kind of struggle with this format. And I think a key example of shows that struggle with this format are the Jurassic series. Now, shows are a good way to keep a franchise alive. Not that the Jurassic franchise is ever going to die, but it really keeps them relevant. Like, take the Clone Wars, for example, for Star Wars. After Revenge of the Sith, the Clone Wars was airing for years and, was kind of like keeping Star Wars fresh in everybody's mind before eventually other projects like The Force Awakens was released. And in theory, Jurassic World shows could do the exact same thing. And in a way, I think that these Jurassic World shows do. Now, I absolutely love these shows. I think that they offer a lot of really cool things. They bring a lot of really cool things to the table, while also bringing some not really cool things to the table. But overall, I think that they add a lot to the Jurassic franchise that is very intriguing and very fun to watch. But there's a lot of those elements that aren't known to a lot of different people. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why they're not known to a lot of different people is because that's how fast these shows go by. They drop in a single day. Everybody binges them because they're relatively short episodes, so it's easy to just knock them out. And then after a day or two or three, maybe, it's done. There's not much room for speculation. You can talk about what might happen in the next season, but there's no talk about the show that just happened. And I think that that's unfortunate because, again, these shows bring a lot of really interesting things to the table. And what's equally frustrating is that these shows are kind of set up for a weekly release schedule. Take season 1 of Chaos Theory, for example. In the very first episode, it is revealed that Brooklyn is dead. She is as dead as a doornail, I don't know. She is as dead as a non-avian dinosaur. We'll just put it like that. And that is something that they hold on to for the rest of the show. They show us how all of these characters are coping with something like that. It's integral for the whole story, or at least it's one of the main things that's going on with this series. Until the very end, when it is epically revealed that she is not dead and she's missing an arm. That is something that I think would have benefited from having a weekly release schedule instead of being dropped in one day. Because the same day where you find out that Brooklyn's dead, you also find out that she's alive just a few hours later, depending on who you are, how much time you have to watch this show. But even at that, everybody else found out that Brooklyn's alive and they're going to be posting it on the internet because that's typically how things go. When I think that it would have been better for it to be released weekly, that way we can discuss whether or not she's dead or alive. And then by the time you get to maybe, I don't know, episode 5 or something like that, maybe you're starting to think to yourself, maybe she really is dead. She might have shown up by this point and she simply has not. Maybe she truly did kick the bucket. And then once you finally get to that final episode, it's great. She's not dead now, but the point is that everybody would have had time to speculate. It would have kept Chaos Theory. It would have given it more of a shelf life, if that makes sense. People could have talked about this show. There could have been theories crafted about the show. There could have been a lot of different discussion about the show that there simply wasn't able to be. Instead, all anybody can do is speculate about what the next season is going to be about, which is fine. Every show has that. But I think that there could have been a lot more talked about that could have maybe pushed this show up a little bit more than it already was. I mean, let me use a few other shows, for example. Currently, Daredevil Born Again is being released on Disney+. Fantastic show so far. And it's, of course, being released weekly. And I think that that's a good thing overall. That's something that I prefer because it keeps me intrigued with the show and the characters and the world and everything that's going on right now, but also leaves me wanting more. I'm looking forward to it every single week. I can't just knock it all out over a weekend, which I wouldn't be able to do that anyway because these episodes are long, but I just don't have that option. Or some of the Star Wars shows, for example, like The Mandalorian Season 2. The Mandalorian Season 2 had a lot of really cool reveals in that show. It really did benefit from having a weekly release schedule because it's like every other week, it's like, oh, here's Bo-Katan. Oh, here's Ahsoka. Oh, here's Boba Fett. Oh, and then there's Luke. And it let us talk about the show as the weeks progressed. It kept The Mandalorian relevant for that many weeks. Whereas if it was released all in one day, maybe at most people would be talking about the Luke reveal, and I'm sure everybody would be talking about the other reveals too, but the Luke reveal would be fresh in everybody's mind. Of course, I'm talking about Star Wars here, which is literally one of the biggest franchises in the world, but I still think it's a decent example. Or we can even talk about like another show like Echo. Echo on Disney Plus was released in a single day, and I think that this is something that kind of helps strengthen my feelings that this is not a good way to release these shows. Because I liked Echo, but Echo was not talked about nearly as much as it probably should have been, especially considering the fact that it leads directly into Daredevil Born Again. There was even an awesome Daredevil fight in that show towards I think it was the first episode. But hardly anybody talks about that anymore because it's long gone. It's like we got the show. Maybe we can make a few videos about it. Maybe we could talk about it a little bit, but it doesn't have nearly as long of a life as I feel like it could have been if it was simply just released weekly. This is all just like a long-winded way for me to say I wish that these shows released weekly. They bring a lot of very cool dinosaurs to the screen. They brought in a freaking Alta Spinax, Pachyrhinosaurus was in one of the episodes, and it didn't really have the time to shine because it was immediately drowned out by the other dinosaurs that show up later in the series, like the Alta Spinax. I keep pointing the wrong way. And I think that's unfortunate. Pachyrhinosaurus is one of my favorite dinosaurs. Now, I'm not saying that these shows would have the same impact as, some of the Star Wars shows, like even the Clone Wars, which is an animated project. But I'm thinking that it might be a little bit more relevant if they just had that weekly release schedule. I don't know. This was a ranting video. I'm sorry for ranting. But I'm just not a fan of that method. I think that there are a lot of folks who are a fan of that, and that is fantastic. But it's just, that's not really my cup of tea. I like having things to look forward to week by week, and I'm someone who tries to avoid spoilers as much as I can. Like once a project has been released, I have to see it basically right away. Otherwise, I know I'm going to stumble across a spoiler. So I try to watch it all as quickly as I possibly can. But again, I don't think that everybody is nearly of the same mindset, but be sure to let me know what you guys think. Do you guys prefer this Netflix method of releasing this content by just having it all in one day, or do you prefer going week by week? Be sure to let me know down below. But that's pretty much all I have for this one. Thank you for listening to my rant, and have an awesome day.